All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac, finally back in Virginia for about 10 days. And then I'm off to Florida again, Neil.
Ooh.
Neil, some neighbors next to us, we're on the 6th floor of a condo. They spotted a coyote on the beach down below.
Wow, I didn't know they had coyotes in Florida.
I figured they did out in the swamp area or something,
Sure,
and pumas and catamounts and whatever we're calling lynx, whatever we call wildcats. But yeah, that's a little disconcerting to say the least, especially since we take the dogs out there at night.
Oh yeah, wow.
So fortunately, there's a little fenced in area, but they were right next to the little fenced in area. But who knew? Who knew? But that was my excitement. My wife just sent me the picture of that. So
that is exciting.
Otherwise, it was we missed you last week.
Yeah, I missed you too. It was nice to have a Sunday off, and I could just, sweat the games, watch the games, not have to worry about doing content later in the night. But I'm happy to be back, and I obviously skipped the right one last week with the Giants on that one once again. And I would have been wrong if I had been here last week. I would have told you to play Jalen Hyatt and Darius Slayton and to fade Wan'Dale Robinson. And then of course it was Wan'Dale Robinson who got all of the targets, even though the other guys are getting more and more of the workload. So I'm glad that I wasn't on last week, because I would have led you wrong in that one. But I'm really excited to be here for this one, because this is a fun game.
This is looking very exciting. We have a close game. We've got two amazing offenses. We have seen Miami just knock the bejesus out of weaker teams, struggle a little bit against better teams, or better defenses, which is kind of what we have in the with the Eagles tonight. Yeah. Eagles are at home, so this is going to be interesting. Few wild cards with some injuries, couple narratives here and there, so we've got a lot to talk about. But I see Scott Foster in chat is saying EMac talk business. So we are brought to you by Owner's Box. So of course we are sponsored by Owner's Box. I'm sure this is the kind of business you wanted to talk about, but you can sign up through the link in the YouTube description below us here. And when you sign up, a couple things will happen. When you deposit $10, you will get a $5 lightning ticket. That's a different format of a game they have over there. So you get one free entry into that. You get another $5 free entry into any other contest that you would like to join. They're going to give you a deposit match up to $500 with that first deposit. And you're going to get 1 week of Stochastic all Sims or Sims Max package is what we're called. Who is this Max person? But the Sims package. So that's $199 per month. It's just over a $50 value. So that's like you're putting in $10 and you're getting $60 worth of value. That's a pretty good start.
Not bad.
What else do we have? Did all the games wrap up here? Oh, my parlay is gone.
What was your parlay?
I got into moving the sliders over there on some of the wagering sites and creating some parlays. And I said the Chargers should be able to with 10, and I gave myself 10.5 points.
Ooh.
And just went final. They lost by 14.
Yeah, that's
but
rough.
I didn't even need the points that I gave myself for Pittsburgh, and then Seattle covered what I had said. And then I was going into tonight's game because I actually like rarely do I pick sides, but I kind of like Philly in this one. You can get them at 2.5 or 3. 2.5 I've seen on the same game parlays. 3 was the line I saw earlier before we went live. So that's some of your sports wagering talk. I see you aren't in one of those enlightened states yet. In Minnesota, I will be leaving the enlightened state of Virginia and heading down to Florida, where they keep. I've lost track of what it is. So every time they start to make a ruling, then whoever doesn't get what they like, then they take it to a different court, and then they pause it again. And then that's however everywhere it lands, then the other side's like, no, we don't like that answer. It's like, can you pick one, please? And again, I don't even know what I'm rooting for because everything changes. So it's like, it's just frustrating.
Sounds frustrating.
All righty. You ready to jump into this?
Yeah, I'm pumped for this. I'm pumped for this game. Let's talk about it.
All right. So everybody hit the like button and buckle up because we are going to have some fun here. Let me get over here to my notes page. So two teams that look like they're playoff bound. That's exciting to see. We have starting with Miami. You've got Tua Tagovailoa is projected as the number 7 quarterback for the full week, which is actually that's pretty decent. Of course, 6 teams are on a bye, but that's not too shabby. That's for DraftKings. On FanDuel, he was QB number 9. The key things you want to know is the Eagles are mere mortals, I said here, when it comes to defending the pass, with the 19th DVOA. 3 different opposing quarterbacks have thrown for 290 yards, and there have been 3 multi-passing touchdown games, not those same 3 games with the yard. And Mac Jones was one of them. 316 yards.
That's right. They almost won that game, didn't they?
First game, yeah. You know what they did today? They won.
That's right,
and
man. That's
not because Bill Belichick took away the best option on the other. He didn't, because Allen scored and threw a couple, and Diggs scored, but he reset. Matt and I talked about that last week. He reset the season. He said, we're starting over. Apparently it worked.
Apparently.
Here we are. So the other things that you want to know is that Tua Tagovailoa leads the league with 312.7 passing yards per game. Next closest, your Kirk Cousins, just shy of 280. That disparity is dramatic. That's like
number for Tua?
35 yards. So it's 313 to 380, right? Or 280 basically. Offense is down so much across the league. Yardage is down. Everything's down. It's kind of crazy. But what do you want to say about Tua other than he's not so fleet of foot?
He doesn't do a whole lot of running. Doesn't throw well with his right hand. Otherwise, very, very good quarterback.
Not too shabby. I see my grandson's in chat. He's getting ready to celebrate not only the Finns game, Finns up. It's also National Tight End Day.
Oh, we should have had Nick come on the stream with us.
We should have,
because this is
it would have been.
I'm sure he's
classic.
pumped for this one.
Classic. We should have had him and Lofty do the show, and then we could have gone somewhere.
That's true.
else.
Yeah, they could have just fought the whole show. That would have been fun.
I don't know what we're thinking about. I have to look at the schedule. I don't know that we get any Sunday night Seahawk games, but that's what I'll be rooting for.
Yeah.
As I wear my University of Washington shirt today. But how are you feeling about Tagovailoa? You know, not much else to say about him other than he's kind of spendy. It's hard to make him in the multiplier slot on DK, because putting his pass catchers with him really messes things up. If you're trying to put two of them in there.
That is reflected in the tools. We have Tua 7% projected captain ownership, just 5% chance essentially of being optimal in the captain spot. So a little bit of negative leverage in the captain. He looks like he's appropriately owned in the util, 39% projected ownership, 40% chance of being optimal in the util. So yeah, I prefer Tua in the util, but I think you can play him either place. Like he's can certainly put up a big game if he finally, he mostly has been hitting Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's been having all of the big games. Maybe spreads it out a little bit more to Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, even Mostert. Get one of the running backs into the end zone with a receiving touchdown. I think that you can play him in the captain spot, but I'm not playing Tua in the captain spot with just one pass catcher. If I have Tua in the captain spot, I want multiple pass catchers in the flex.
And that is the exact same rule that I set up. It's the way it's got to be. It's the way it's got to be. I did see it's worth pointing out that Robbie Chosen, or is that what he's going by? Or is it Chosen Anderson?
No, I think it's Robbie Chosen at this point.
It was Robbie, and now it's Rob, and then it was Rob Y, and now it's Robbie Chosen or Chosen Anderson. Regardless, he did not self-select, but he was chosen to be on the inactive list. But see what I did there. So he is going to be out. That takes the $200 option off the table on DK. But we've got plenty more, including a key one tonight. I did set up the same rule there as well. I figured if I'm going to get Tua, and I figure I'm going to try to get him about 10% of my lineups tonight as in the multiplier slot. I want to have 2 pass catchers. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's generally a good rule because it doesn't do a whole lot of running.
All right. Well, talking about errors, DK has Jeff Wilson Jr. at $200.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's so. I mean, is that what you want to talk about now? You want to talk about Jeff Wilson?
Unless you got something else you want to say about Tua.
No, let's talk about Jeff Wilson. So it's a little bit interesting because the coaches did come out and say that he could have played last week, and they chose to go with Salvon Ahmed, Salmon Head, as some people know him, instead of Jeff Wilson last week. So I think that the field is going to play it as though Jeff Wilson is the clear RB2 here. I think that is the likely scenario, but I'm not 100% confident that Jeff Wilson is going to immediately come in and take that role from Salvon Ahmed, given that he could have played last week and they decided to just roll out Ahmed instead. I kind of think there's a little bit more volatility there than a lot of people are going to assume. People are just going to, say Jeff Wilson, he's always been the RB2. He's going to be the RB2. Again, I think that is the likeliest scenario, but I think that it's 70%, 75% likely and not like 99% likely. So I'm going to have a good amount of Jeff Wilson. Let me see. What do we have the ownership at? We have Jeff Wilson projected for 4% captain ownership. Okay. So we only have him projected for 16% util ownership. Okay. My point is moot. I was thinking he was going to be extreme chalk. I think he is going to come in higher than the 20% ownership that we're projecting for. My guess is he gets to 45% ownership. But it kind of makes my point moot. Like at that ownership, I'd rather just play Jeff Wilson because I do still think that he is the likeliest running back. Hard to not have interest in Jeff Wilson at this price tag. It's clearly too low. If you expect him to have just like his regular RB2 role or anything close to his regular role, 4% captain ownership. We have him 7% chance of being optimal in the captain spot, 16% util ownership, 21% chance of being optimal in the util. So I was going to make a point about, maybe some lineups choosing Ahmed over Jeff Wilson. I'll probably get some with Ahmed in there, but it is, we're not expecting him to have a ton of ownership. So at that point, yeah, I'm going to roll out some Jeff Wilson there.
All right. I am dropping the article here in chat that is free. Breaks down everything here, team by position, as well as a full player pool ranking. Those are the free ones for Thursday and Monday. You can get Neil's free article there on the Stochastic homepage. He does get a little bit of a day of rest, sort of, here on Sundays. But we've got NBA starting up on Tuesday. Neil, that's
exciting.
Be very exciting.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing kind of minimal NBA content to start, but I've always been an NBA DFS player too, so excited to have my two primary sports, I would say, NFL and NBA together at the same time is going to be fun.
It's going to be crazy because I've got hockey on top of it, plus college football. Fortunately, we've got some great tools here at Stochastic. I've been able to do all of these sports for years, collecting all my crowns on DraftKings so I can make the Onyx tier. This is the last hurrah, Neil, but I'm sitting on just shy of 2.5 million crowns, which I'm hoping to redeem for a few $1,000s of gift cards.
Yeah, that's the way to play
one
it.
More time. So
yeah. I want to be so Steven says if you go back to last season, it seems if he is healthy, Jeff Wilson is the RB2. Yeah, I mean, I obviously know that. I played a lot of DFS last year. I know that he has been the RB2 in the past. I'm just saying last week he could have played and they opted to go with Ahmed. So I was just making the point, if people are going to assume that it's Jeff Wilson, then maybe I would, play some Ahmed lineups, but it doesn't seem like we're anticipating that like the entire field is playing him. So, it's kind of a moot point.
Yeah, it's you're splitting hairs. So I'm sort of thinking 6 to 8 touches is the minimum. We don't, he should be mostly healthy, but again, I think I think he has something like 51. I'm going from memory here. I picked it up from somewhere like 51 career games or something like that. Feels like it's more. I was writing up San Francisco, so maybe that's the number for Eli Mitchell's career games. I was getting these a little confused because hey, there's a lot of carryover, and here's the point. You've got who is the Miami coach? Mike McDaniel. So he was actually the running backs coach and the running game coordinator. And I don't think he was ever actually the offensive coordinator. He might have been for 1 year in San Francisco before he came over to Miami, but he had Jeff Wilson. He had Raheem Mostert under him there. That's where the familiarity came from those guys. So, that well-versed in the system, Wilson should be able to slot right in. I would expect, a third of the workload.
I think that's a reasonable expectation. And I mean, he had weeks last week where he ended up playing more than Mostert too, like getting more snaps than Mostert. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited for Jeff Wilson to be back. He's one of the guys that I was just drafting every best ball draft for the first half of the summer until we got the bad news that he might not play the whole season or might not play the season at all. But yeah, happy to have him back. I expect him to have a role. Here, I'll read the quote. So Barry Jackson says, Jeff Wilson Jr. was ready last week per two Finns coaches on the record, but Dolphins believed they needed offensive lineman Robert Jones more on 53 last week. Wilson is needed Sunday night with only Mostert and Ahmed healthy. So that like the quote seems to indicate that like, they need him as the third running back. But yeah, we do have a sample size last year of these running backs all together, and Jeff Wilson was the running back too. So he's probably going to fit right back into that role. But as Steven said, Ahmed's played pretty well, scored the touchdown in garbage time last week. So, I just think there's no guarantee. We don't know for sure that he's going to immediately take that running back to a rollback.
Yeah, and that's, and it's a guessing game. And talking about the running back one, I mean, come on, Mostert is getting there on efficiency and spectacular plays, as was Devon Achane while he was healthy. They had that game where they both scored 4 touchdowns. Mostert has another game where he had 3 touchdowns. I believe his 11 touchdowns are a career high or one off of his career high. And we're 6 weeks into the season. Pretty heady stuff there for Mr. Mostert. The other thing I wanted to call out here, the Eagles are allowing the second fewest rushing yards per game in the league at 65.8, and they're allowing just 3.6 yards per carry. They have yet to allow a run of longer than 20 yards. I think the longest was 18, but they haven't gone over 20 yards, and they've allowed only 3 rushing touchdowns. Prior to the injury, Achane had 6 carries of 20-plus yards. Mostert has 4. So the point being is they're 2 of the fastest guys in the NFL, along with Tyreek Hill. So this offense is built on speed. Jeff Wilson Jr., no slouch, but it's like this is one of those, it's different, but the first time you got to see the Chip Kelly offenses, or the first time the air raid kind of really took over, everybody got pass happy. All of a sudden there's space all over the place. And that's what we're seeing with the Miami offense. Guess what? People are going to scheme for it. They're going to figure it out. The NFL, they always solve something. Remember on the Wildcat, Miami caught the Patriots off guard 2 years. That was like 25 years ago. Caught them off guard to 2 different games where, I can't even think of the running back's name, but they just ripped them to shred. That was the first time anybody had seen the Wildcat offense.
I don't remember.
Literally, this was like 20. This is well before DFS. I probably didn't have internet at that point.
Yeah,
when they were doing it. It's been a long time. So chat will know. But point being was like, oh my God, how's it? Anybody ever going to stop it? And then within 3 weeks, everybody had a Wildcat package. Guess what? It didn't work for most of the teams. But 2 years later, it wasn't an issue anymore. So
I think Mike McDaniel's going to adjust. So, I think he's a good enough coach that people are going to figure this one out, and he's just going to find new ways to beat teams. So, man. It's been fun. It's been fun.
Esoteric comment. Yes, I am reading a lot of the article I did. It took me 3 hours to write and waded through a whole bunch of stuff. And you know what analysis is? Either an article or verbal form. It's condensing that information, giving it to you in a consumable fashion in the most efficient way possible.
Yeah.
I spent 3 hours consolidating this down into something you could read in 10 minutes. Hell yeah, I'm going to lean on that when I'm citing things here. So I'm a good enough writer that I can polish up my notes and put it out in front of the paywall. That's essentially all an article is, right? It's just your polished up notes. Right, yeah. Neil, you were a professional writer, a lawyer.
I was a lawyer. Yeah. Yes. Okay. And I was a writer. Like I wasn't a practicing lawyer. I was a writing lawyer. So yes, I suppose in a sense I was a professional writer.
Yeah. So I want you guys to know everything is rooted in fact. And that's why I'm citing all this stuff here. It's a lot of stuff. I think you hit Salvon Ahmed. His path to more than 4 or 5 touches is going to be mop-up duty, or something happening to one of the other running backs,
or being the running back too. I'm just saying there's a possibility that he gets involved. But most likely, yes,
quite possible. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. You've got Braxton Berrios. He's 3rd on the team with 20 targets. Cedric Wilson Jr. Is floating around in the mix there. Braxton Berrios is the punt and kick returner. So he is kind of edged out Wilson in those duties here. How are you feeling about that trio? I guess we should put Durham Smythe in there as well. He only has really a handful of targets this season, or per game. I think he has 2 or 3 per game. You can lump him in here because he's sort of in that Braxton Berrios category of you're not one of the 2 main running backs. Now we're down to 1, and you're not one of the 2 main receivers. Very concentrated offense here. Talk about the tertiary guys and then work up to Tyreek.
Okay, so the tertiary guys, just looking at last week, we had Braxton Berrios, as you said, ran 13 routes. He had 41% route participation last week, just behind Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So it was Braxton Berrios next in line behind those 2. Only saw 2 targets, so just a 6% target share last week, but at least running those right. So he is the one of the other receivers that I would feel the most confident playing. After Braxton Berrios, it gets really dicey really quickly. We had Cedric Wilson ran routes on 16% of passing plays last week. That is not particularly great. I'm trying to figure out, we actually have a decent projection on Cedric Wilson. I guess 2.5 fantasy points. I guess decent is maybe an overstatement there, but playable kind of looking projection that we have for Cedric Wilson. It's at least a little bit interesting there. What I'm wondering about is Chase Claypool, and we have Chase Claypool not projected for any fantasy points. I believe he is
you read
active.
We got an update about 5 minutes ago. He is projected on DK for 3.07 points.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I'm just cleared my stuff out and uploaded it again.
Thank you for that. So I mean, with Chase Claypool, like his first game here, I don't know, like I'm a little bit like, is he going to play some tight end? Is that going to affect Durham Smythe? Because Chase Claypool has the body type to play tight end out there. It would be not that shocking for me if they decide to end up playing Claypool over Smythe as the tight end instead of having him as a receiver. But that's just obviously speculation. I have no idea what they plan to do. We had Durham Smythe only played. I got to sort by routes here. So he played 50% of routes last week. Early in the year, I think the first couple games, he had 100% route participation. He's down to 50% route participation in the most recent game, but that would still be playable. As I said, just a little bit of a concern that maybe they're going to play Claypool out there over Smythe. I think that is, within it's possible that Claypool is going to take away from some of that Durham Smythe role rather than the other receivers. But remains to be seen what they're going to do with Claypool. But I think Claypool at low ownership is going to be interesting. What do we have? I'm gonna refresh the page now to see, because we had Claypool out. Now I want to see what the updated information says for Claypool. So we have Claypool now for 7% total ownership, 0.3% in the captain spot, 6.6% in the flex. We have him a little bit under owned in the captain spot. As I said, 0.3% ownership, 0.6% chance of being optimal in the captain spot. We have him a little bit over owned in the flex, 6.6% ownership, 5.7% chance of being optimal. So at 1,000, making his debut, I'm a little bit interested in Chase Claypool, just as a guy who he's cheap enough. One touchdown, maybe a couple receptions and a touchdown is going to be enough to pay off his salary. So I have some interest in Claypool, but obviously we're not playing him with any kind of confidence because we have no idea what role they're going to have Claypool. This is first action on Miami, but I'm gonna take some shots there at low ownership. So I'm interested in Claypool, but yeah, it's going to be primarily of the outside of Hill and Waddle, it's Braxton Berrios, number one for me. After Berrios, it gets dicey in a hurry between Cedric Wilson, Chase Claypool, Durham Smythe. All of them, I think, are playable. I think my preference is just going to go kind of by ownership. So I think that it would probably be Claypool getting the lowest ownership, followed by Wilson, followed by Smythe. I think is the order that I would have the tertiary options for the Dolphins. Do you see it any differently, EMac?
No, and that's where I'm going. And the only reason I think we kind of are talking a little more about Claypool than we would have for Robbie, the artist formerly known as Robbie Anderson. He's new. He's active for the first time. Would it be a shock if they threw him a ball or two just because? Right. And we know that, right? Because we're DFS players. We know ball, right? We know ball. And no ball. You don't know ball if you didn't realize that Scotty Miller was going to get a catch against his former team today.
Obviously.
Come on.
I didn't even know that he had
46 yard, one target, 46 yards. Atlanta against Tampa. It just happens.
I didn't even know that Scotty Miller was on Atlanta now.
I did not either until I saw his name in the box score. And I said, hey, it's a remember me game. That's the perfect example. I'm curious to see how many routes he ran today. 3 or something like that.
Probably.
But the point being, Claypool was traded for what?
Virtually nothing. It was like a 6 and 7 swap or something like that. Yeah,
they swapped like a 6th or 7th, and Chicago's eating most of the salary. I mean, this is just Chicago, just get him out of here. We don't need they were going to let him sit at home all season, right?
Right.
Failed there. Had one good year in Pittsburgh where he was kind of gadgety and had touchdown variants on his side. I don't know what to. I mean, next thing you know, we're going to be talking about Julio Jones and hamstrings and things like that. Oh, wait, we're going to be talking about Julio Jones and his hamstrings because that's going to be a fun one as well. Over under 1.5 targets for Claypool tonight.
1.5. I think the smart money would be on the under. Like I'm hopeful for the over, but I think it's more likely under 1.5.
I would take the over.
Would you? Okay.
Yes, but I think it's 2. Cedric Wilson over under 1.5.
Under.
I think the under as well.
Okay.
This is what we're talking about. This is what we're forced to look at, this minutia here. Because if that one catch goes for 30 yards, doesn't even have to be a touchdown, goes for 30 yards, all of a sudden it means something here on Showdown. Shout out there to Joey S. He told me it was Ronnie Brown was the Wildcat quarterback. I want to say Ronnie Brown. I think Auburn back in the day. Once upon I think Ronnie Brown, Cadillac Williams. That's Jason. The guy who was the quarterback for the Washington football team. I can't think. Jason Campbell. I think that was that team that they were on back in college. Baldy in the Oath says Wildcat came around at around 2007. That sounds about right there. Sure. And then someone in here, and not knocking it, be saying, "Oh, the air raid is in no way as revolutionary as what Miami's doing now." The air raid was revolutionary when it popped up 20 years ago. And what are all college teams running now? That's what we call a revolution, folks. Now everybody's doing it. The revolution has happened. It has become commonplace for that one. All righty. That takes care of the pass catchers here. What else do we have? The defense. Philadelphia has been right around league average with the 6.8% sack rate with Jalen Hurts under center, including the times when he was kind of splitting time there with Carson Wentz. They have allowed 14 this season. The Eagles have given up 9 turnovers, but Miami has just 5 takeaways. Dolphins are third in the league with 21 sacks. I'm not excited to play the defenses, but we should see more passing. And more passing means more defensive fantasy opportunities. Remember that most points you can lose on DK if your defense gets rolled is 4, unless your kick returners are fumbling, right? Because you can only lose -4. I think if they give up 32 or 35, I forget what the number is. But otherwise, we're looking for some sacks, some scoop and scores, pick sixes, etc. Anything else here from Miami that you would like to mention?
From the defenses, or just like in general,
just
talking about
anything as we turn over to, because I'm gonna let you talk about Hurts so good.
Yeah, I guess we didn't really talk about Raheem Mostert. I'm going to be under the field on Mostert. He's 9,800 against this really tough. He's been like, I'm a little bit like, I think I want to have some exposure because this offense has been so good. Like the Eagles are such a good defense, but like this offense has been able to roll over almost every team they face. They didn't do it against the Bills, but like I think it's a one game where they didn't really do much. In general, this offense has been phenomenal, and like they've just run such unique plays that like if any team is going to be able to put up a lot of points on the ground against this Eagles defense, I think it is this Miami team, just because they throw you in so many different directions, kind of disorient the defense that maybe, and Mostert obviously extremely fast. So like if anybody can do it, it is Mostert. It's tough because he's 9,800. So you're asking a lot for Mostert to get there, but I do think that he is capable of it, given his speed, given just the way this offense operates. I'm going to be underweight to the field. We have Mostert though, 6% projected captain ownership, just 1% chance of being optimal in the captain, 24% util ownership, 18% chance of being optimal in the util. So negative leverage in both spots. I do still think he's playable just because of the dynamics of this offense and his speed. Like he can just break off a long touchdown. So I'm going to be underweight to the field because of the price tag, but Mostert is certainly playable. We talked about Ahmed and Wilson. Wilson is obviously the better bet. Ahmed at 4,400. At that price tag, I don't think I'm going to go there. So, completely making my earlier point moot about Ahmed maybe having a role. I don't think I can play him at that price tag here. I will have a good amount of Wilson. So ultimately, like we actually don't have Wilson for that much ownership. Currently, I've got him in just over 50% of my lineups. I don't know if that's going to hold. Like, I don't know if I want that much Wilson, but the price tag, like he can pay it off pretty easily. And then, yeah, we talked about all of the receivers, the tight ends. You haven't given us your kicker stats yet on Jason Sanders.
I have not. We can do that right now, actually. Normally we kind of wrap up with it, but let's use that as the transitory properties here. So Jason Sanders is just 4 of his last 13 from 50 or more. That's over his last 40 games. You know what that means, Neil? He does not have distance.
Yeah.
This season, he has 3 games with no field goal attempts and 1 game with 1. Why is that? Well, because the offense is pretty good. Now, would it be a shock if somehow Miami stalls out 3 or 4 times tonight inside? Better be inside the 40, probably closer to the 35, because otherwise he doesn't have the leg to get it much farther than that. But could he collect 3 or 4 field goals? Yeah, absolutely. Field goals are incredibly fickle, but just kind of showing the point. This guy is the slightly below league average. I think he was, 51 of 53 on extra points. Or am I conflating things again here? That was the other kicker. But yeah, so 30% on his 13 field goals from beyond 50 over 40 games. So he has no distance. It's funny how slowly 25 and 35 yard field goals add up when other kickers are hitting 50-yard field goals. Those 2 points are a big difference.
I'm realizing that we skipped over the studs. You told me to start with the tertiary options and work up. I never worked my way up to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. That is kind of important. We should probably talk about those guys a little bit. Obviously, Tyreek Hill has been smashing all year. So yeah, 15% captain ownership is what we're projecting for Tyreek Hill. 13% chance of being optimal in the captain spot. He's so good. You can always play Tyreek Hill. I mean, it's like this is like the least important part of the discussion because you kind of know what you're doing with Tyreek Hill. Like he is a stud, even at that price tag. Yes, you can play Tyreek Hill. We actually have a little bit under owned for Tyreek Hill in the util, 47% ownership, 50% chance of being optimal in the util, even at 12,000. That's incredible. He's just been so good all year. You can definitely play some Tyreek Hill. My guess is that I will be underweight to the field only because of the price tag. I'm going to some of the cheaper guys, hoping the wide receiver 2s, I guess, get it done here more so, but you can always play Tyreek Hill. He is, very, very likely to be the highest scoring player on the slate or one of the highest scoring players on the slate. Jalen Waddle, I have been slamming into my lineups the past few weeks, and it has been kind of hit or miss. Like he's done okay. He's, put up like 18, 19 fantasy points, but hasn't really had that breakout game yet. He is certainly capable of. He is also very fast. He's, maybe not quite Tyreek Hill fast, but like Jalen Waddle is one of the faster receivers in the league himself. He's just 8,600. And he's actually, like, in terms of expected fantasy points, he has been one of the better players in the league the past couple of weeks. He has been targeted a good amount. In the last game, he was targeted 9 times. He's been targeted in the red zone a good amount. Like he's been seeing some end zone targets. You can definitely go to Jalen Waddle. They're using him still plenty, and he is fast enough to break off a long run. So I just wanted to, and in terms of the tools, we have Jalen Waddle, 8% ownership in the captain spot, 8% chance of being optimal, 33% util ownership, 34% chance of being optimal. He's definitely in play as well. He's not on the level of Tyreek Hill. It's not like last year, it kind of felt at times like it was maybe a 1A, 1B kind of situation. It doesn't feel like that this year. And this is kind of more what we expected. Like Tyreek Hill is the 1, Jalen Waddle is the 2. There is a gap there, but on any given Sunday, we can see Jalen Waddle outscore him. Both are studs. Both should be, in a lot of your lineups.
All right. Okay. So this is what happens when I don't go line by line as I'm going through my articles. Look, we skipped the important people. So you know what? I got a little self-conscious there. I was worried, oh, you're right. Okay, fine. I'll just go extemporaneously up top of my head, because I've only done a few thousand shows and written over 5,000 articles. Why not? I can probably do this cold. No, I can't. I need
to be fair,
Mac, fashion.
You threw it to me and you told me start with the tertiary options. And then
but I wasn't listening.
And I just never got there.
Like, I wasn't listening. I was focused on other things, like worried about that 2007 Auburn team and what they did in college, because that has so much bearing on what we're doing tonight. So yes, we're going back to me slyly referencing my notes / article. Here's the thing that's very interesting. Did you know that Hill and Waddle are really only on the field for about 70% of snaps?
I did. I saw that in that last week, and looking at the season as well, we have Tyreek Hill. I'm not looking at snaps, I'm looking at route participation, but just 72% route participation for Tyreek Hill on the year, and Waddle at
like 69%.
Yeah, both are. I mean, that's nice, but it's not elite. Like neither of these guys running as many routes as the rest of the league. Third on the team, interestingly, and we noted this earlier, but 49%. Actually, that's not third on the team for the season. But we have Braxton Berrios 49%, Durham Smythe 64% on the season. That's somewhat weighted from early on when he was running 100% of routes, though.
All right. The other thing to remember is hit that like button. We're over 1,500 people watching. Let's get up to 200 likes to celebrate. I just dropped 10 $1 head-to-heads in the DK lobby. That is username EMac. That is for Sunday Night Football. I believe I got the last 2 Showdown games. I cashed everything except one head-to-head. I cashed boosters with my lineups. I won my quintuple ups. The slate before that, I lost every single one.
It can happen on Showdown in particular. It's like, it's very, very hit or miss.
It happens, but I'm back home, back on my own computers here, not running just one lineup, even though
it's going to make all the difference.
So I will see. I got my rules set up, but I haven't done my crunches yet. We have 28 minutes until kickoff. We're 8:20 and we start a little early so we can get you guys all of the time here. Wheels, good to see you. It has been a long time. Miss those fantasy feud days. All right, so now I think we've gotten through Miami, so and as well as their kicker. So we have to talk about Jake Elliott. He is the kicker for Philadelphia. He is the exact opposite of Sanders. In his last 39 games, he is 12 of 14, or 85.7% from beyond 50. Oh, he is the one. Last year, he led the league both with 51 extra points made and 53 attempts. It's pretty good average there, conversion rate as well. So he is someone, and he gets the home field advantage. So we would consider him a little bit more. I think he's slightly, if I remember correctly, he's just a little more expensive than Sanders. That takes us over here to Jalen Hurts. While he has only thrown for more than one touchdown this season one time, he has thrown a touchdown in every game, and he has rushing touchdowns in 4 of the 6 games. Doing some mental math, that works out to 5 multi-touchdown games out of his 6. How many lineups you building before Hurts is not the captain? And what is the strategy for the Showdown Shaman working? Because once you take Hurts out of captain, or you don't have Hill, or you don't have Brown in your lineup, lots of permutations of different things open up. When you try to put those 3 players in, you start to, okay, then I'm going to click Wilson, and now I'm going to put in a kicker. Hey, I'm looking at Durham Smythe and Braxton Berrios. We're all building the same lineup when we do it that way. What are you doing here with Hurts? Because tonight we actually have like 5 viable captains.
So in general, I would say I prefer Hurts in the flex. Just looking at our tools, I'm gonna have Hurts in. I'm actually overweight to the field in the captain, so I don't want to like undersell my interest in Hurts in the captain spot. I've got him in 20% of my lineups in the captain spot. Currently, Jalen Hurts is in 100% of my lineups. That might not change. Like I might just have him in 100%. Maybe not, just because of the price tag. I do think this is a slate where we have enough studs on it that like, I'm probably not going to have anybody in 100% of my lineups. Like Hurts is expensive. There are plenty of players who could outscore him or don't even need to outscore him. Like at his price tag of 11,400, he might not be in the optimal lineup, even if he is, one of the 6 highest scorers, or even one of the top 3 highest scorers, because we've got, cheaper Jalen Waddle. We have cheap Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, like plenty of cheaper options who, we might get rather than a stars and scrubs lineups, we could end up with a balanced build kind of a lineup, given all of the very good options on the slate. So I'm going to have Hurts in most of my lineups, possibly even all of my lineups, but there are certainly ways where it could work out where Jalen Hurts does not end up in the optimal lineup, given all of the other players who, like, if it's a really high scoring game, we could have a lot of very high scores, and the price might just be a little bit prohibitive. But again, I'm going to have Hurts in nearly all or all of my lineups. We have him optimal overall. We have Hurts optimal a little over 75% of the time. We have him captain optimal 15% of the time, captain owned 15% of the time. So he is appropriately owned in the captain spot. We have him under owned in the util though, 55% util ownership, 63% chance of being optimal in the util. So in general, I would prefer, because of the price tag and because of all the other great options on the slate, I prefer to have Hurts in the flex, and that just allows you to fit in better players throughout the rest of your lineup. But he looks fantastic both spots. He's also one of the few running backs that you could theoretically play in the captain spot without any pass catchers in the flex. I'm not doing that. I'm actually requiring 1 pass catcher. If I were doing 150 lineups though, I would allow for Hurts to be by himself in the captain spot without any pass catchers in the flex. He does have, multiple receivers who are fairly expensive. So AJ Brown can help him get to a big score without being optimal himself because of the price tag. And of course he's got the rushing upside is the bigger impact there. Is just Hurts could, rush for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns and not really bring a pass catcher along. But I am requiring at least one pass catcher. I wouldn't, though, if I were playing 150 lineups.
All right. Oh shoot, I lost a good question there. So let's continue on. So the running game here, Neil, when we look at Miami, they have the 25th best or rushing DVOA, or the 7th worst, depending on your vantage point here. I was trying to call up their game logs against. So in week 1, Miami gave Josh Kelly 91 yards on 16 carries and a touchdown. Eckler got 117 on 16 carries. And then last week, Chuba Hubbard got him for 88 yards. In between, they've just faced a bunch of committee backs. They haven't faced a committee as talented as what they're going to see tonight. Now, Swift has taken a step ahead of Gainwell. So in week 2, when Gainwell was out, remember that was when Swift got all those carries. That was a island game, primetime game as well. But since he has returned, so the 4 games since then, Swift has been in on about 60% of the snaps, while Gainwell's getting most of the rest. Boston Scott lightly feathered in to the point of where I think he has a dozen snaps over the last 4 games, so hardly any at all. Last week, Swift had a season high 10 targets, but 4 or 5 is a more realistic baseline. So we're thinking, all right, well, he's getting more carries, he's got more targets. Does he have the edge over Gainwell? Well, I'm not entirely sure, because when it comes to red zone opportunities, they're just about even over the last 4 weeks, and they each have about the same number each game, but Gainwell has 2 or 3 more, which, if you remember week 1 and heading into week 2, not as big of a surprise, and especially in the best ball streets. Neil, my best ball teams are decimated, but in best ball streets, they were talking about Gainwell having more trust of the team. I mean, look, we have Rashad Penny, who's just a healthy scratch every game now, right? Philly has their favorites. Boston Scott is their in case of fire break glass guy. Their favorite is Gainwell. He could get some leverage targets. Of course, he is battling Hurst, Goddard, or Hurts, Goddard, Swift, Brown, everybody, right? So it's a battle in there. But he's tossed his hat in the ring for real here. It's showdown. Anything can happen. What do you got on the running backs?
Yeah, I mean that's a good note. So on the season, so all of that said, on the season, DeAndre Swift 94 expected fantasy points, Kenneth Gainwell 39, and then it's a big drop off to Boston Scott, just 8 expected fantasy points on the year, and that is in just 3 games. And Gainwell's only played 5 games to Swift's 6. But yeah, Swift I would say is generally the lead back in Philadelphia pretty clearly. Like he's been very good so far this year. But last week in a close game, DeAndre Swift only got 46% of the. No, that's not right. He had 10 attempts last week. Am I reading this wrong? He had played 40 snaps last week. So DeAndre Swift played 58% of the snaps. Kenneth Gainwell played 41% of the snaps last week. DeAndre Swift had 10 of the team's 22 rushing attempts. I see. This is why I'm confused, because I'm not accounting for Jalen Hurts getting rushing attempts. I'm only looking at the running back. So DeAndre Swift had 10 of the team's 22 rushing attempts. Kenneth Gainwell had 2. Boston Scott had 2 last week in a close game. DeAndre Swift, like pretty clearly the lead back here, but as you said, Kenneth Gainwell has a role. He is somebody that you can play. We do have, what do you have the price tag on Kenneth Gainwell at 3,800. Yeah, if he scores, I mean, against this Miami defense, it's certainly plausible that Gainwell scores a touchdown or 2. 8% projected ownership. I kind of like it. I kind of like playing the running back roulette a little bit here with these Philadelphia guys. DeAndre Swift is DeAndre Swift is only 8,000, and he is the lead back. He is the running back in the best spot on the slate. I like DeAndre Swift quite a bit behind this Eagles offensive line. So DeAndre Swift is like pretty clearly the number one, the one I have the most interest in. But Kenneth Gainwell at low ownership, what do we have him at in the single game tool? Let me read it off to you if I can find him. We have him at all right, he doesn't look great actually in the single game tool. 7.5% projected ownership, 2.7% chance of being optimal in the util. And 0.3% both ownership and optimal in the captain spot. Even regardless of that, though, because I'm trying to leave some salary on the table to get unique, I still think I'm going to have some interest in Kenneth Gainwell. I think it is a great spot. You just kind of made a great point for Kenneth Gainwell, given his role, maybe a little bit more used around the end zone. So I think you can play some Kenneth Gainwell. Certainly can play DeAndre Swift. I'm going to have a good amount of DeAndre Swift. I'm debating whether I want to go to Boston Scott at all. He has been like, I guess he's the giant killer, right? He always scores touchdowns against the Giants, but theoretically, he should be able to do it against other teams too. There have been times where the Eagles just want to score touchdowns with 3 different running backs in the same game. Has not been happening this year. This is more of a thing of the past, but in this game, it wouldn't be that shocking to see them put Boston Scott in at the goal line. At 600, he's a little bit interesting just because he doesn't need to do that much to pay off his price tag. But I would say that my order of interest here is it's definitely DeAndre Swift number 1. Of Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, I think I go to Gainwell before Scott just because he has clearly a bigger role in the offense. But Boston Scott is at least playable, clearly only in large field GPPs. I think that's true of both Gainwell and maybe not maybe Gainwell in a kind of medium-sized GPP, but Boston Scott only in like the largest field GPPs.
All righty, we are continuing along here. I want to remind everybody that if you have not, or if you're not aware, why is everybody repping the Stochastic Avatar? Well, if you go to stochastic.com/avatar, download that Stochastic Avatar, upload that to your DFS site of choice, finish top 3 in any contest of at least 5,000 people. That is Lofty said it best, a chop-free top 3. It's succinct. I'm going with that. I slightly parsed his words, but I heard him say that on a show, and we're now going with a chop-free top 3. You win. If you tweet that to Stochastic HOF over there on Twitter, gotta have your Stochastic avatar visible in this marketing, but you will get 30 days of Stochastic Premium. All the bells and whistles and rules I'm dropped in the second link there in chat, but jump on in. That is a close to a $200 value. So definitely a good way to get in there. And then reminder, we do have the Stochastic podcast network. You've got the Odd Shopper coming out on that. NBA is coming out. Josh and Greg did an NBA early look at DK pricing maybe 10 days ago. We're going to be churning out all sorts of stuff starting tomorrow for NBA because, of course, the season gets started on Tuesday with the pair of games and then in earnest on Wednesday. So you want to be around checking that out. But you can get everything you need on the Stochastic podcast channel, and with the exception of the Live Before Locks. But we also do typically have 2 podcast exclusive shows each week, one covering the afternoon slate for NFL and the other focusing on 3-mans and single entries. So that's good stuff out there. Lofty is on both of them, and then Ben is on the single entry and 3-max, and Greg talks about the afternoon slate. Okay, Neil. Wow, that was a lot about the running backs, but it's crucial because we talk about the Bill Belichick backfield. This Philadelphia is feeling pretty similar these days. Wide receivers here. AJ Brown, 4th in the league with 60 targets. He has 32 first downs, and he's 4th overall in receptions of at least 20 yards. He has just 2 touchdowns. That's going to change. He had 11 last year. He had 11 in his second season when he was with Tennessee. Did you know he has played on 93.2% of the snaps this year?
Who's this?
This is AJ Brown.
I did not know that. I mean, I can see it now. But yeah, he's great. He's the number 1 receiver on the Eagles pretty clearly. Yeah, I mean, what do you need to know about AJ Brown? Like he's been pretty clearly the team's wide receiver 1 this year. He was last year was similar to Miami. Like it was a little bit closer. I actually heard people over the summer talking about like maybe Devontae Smith is going to become the wide receiver 1. I think any Eagles fan I talked to was like, no, there's no way that's going to happen. It's clearly AJ Brown, but Devontae Smith, still pretty solid, similar to Jalen Waddle, very solid wide receiver too. Yeah, we actually had in week 6, Devontae Smith ran more routes than AJ Brown for what it's worth, 90% route participation to AJ Brown's 84. We also saw Devontae Smith get targeted 10 times, AJ Brown 9 times in that game. Just in general, though, we have AJ Brown has 60 targets on the year. Devontae Smith has 43. In terms of, I'm curious about the air yards for these two. Even with air yards, we have AJ Brown at 873 air. Oh, he leads the league. I forgot. He leads the entire NFL heading into today in air yards at 873. Devontae Smith very far behind at 552. So yeah, AJ Brown, he's the clear alpha here. But I will say, I fucking love Devontae Smith tonight. Devontae Smith to me is just the price is too low on Devontae Smith at 7,400. Did you just did I make you cringe because I swore? I'm sorry about that.
It was funny. It caught me off guard.
Excuse my potty mouth. I didn't mean to scare you like that, EMac. But we have Devontae Smith is 7,400. To me, that is just too cheap for Devontae Smith in this matchup with Miami. So I really love Devontae Smith here. I'm going to be well over the field on Devontae Smith. We just don't have him at enough ownership, in my opinion. We have him at 6.5% captain ownership. We have negative leverage on Devontae Smith in the captain spot. I guess it's more of a gut thing for me that I really like Devontae Smith tonight. It's not really based on the tools. We actually have him slight negative leverage in the captain spot. 6.5% ownership, 5.5% chance to be an optimal, but we have a little bit of positive leverage in the util, 28% ownership, 29% optimal. Because of the way I play, where I'm trying to leave salary on the table, he is the cheapest of the players that I think could be the highest scoring player in the game. So I love Devontae Smith in this matchup. I'm going to be well over the field.
All right. Well, I'm going to get to this question in just a sec, but we're going to finish the pass catchers. So other things you need to know. So Devontae Smith has actually been on the field more than AJ Brown. 97.9% of the plays. Quez Watkins on the injured list. He went on about 10 days ago with the hamstring issue. Longtime Falcon Olamides Zaccheaus is basically getting the vast majority of the the wide receiver 3 snaps. But when your 2 main wide receivers are playing north of 95% of the snaps, not that much out there for the other fellas. Britton Covey, double return duties, but likely to lose his offensive opportunities because Julio Jones is in the house. And sadly, Julio Jones's hamstrings came along with him for the ride. They said he's on a snap count, basically, that best I could tell, I didn't see one.
We saw 15 to 25 or something.
I was going to say 12 to 15. My thought being this: we've seen this with Tampa Bay, right? When he was working in 2 years ago with Brady under center, right? And we saw that he wasn't out there every play; it was situational. So maybe I'm a little light. We'll call it. How many targets?
15 to 25 snaps is what Jay Glazer reported. So
how many targets do you think he gets on those? He's only going to be out there on passing situations for the most part. He could be a decoy, setting the over-under at 2.5.
I was going to say 2. So I was going to take the over on 1.5, but I think I would take the under on 2.5.
All right. So not many, but 17-yard slant. The hitch and go is gone with the giddy up. I don't think that exists anymore. So whenever he catches the ball, that's about where he's going to stay, unless there are no defenders around him, which he could get on a seam route. But I don't see him breaking anything. Congratulations on your unexpected 40-yard touchdown tonight, Julio Jones, because that's how these things work. Is he in any of your lineups? I have him on 1% of I have him on 1 of 109 lineups.
I actually have him in 20% of my lineups, even though I'm not expecting that many targets. I'm thinking it's again, the Eagles have the better matchup with that Miami defense. I feel like they're going to be able to do what they want, and maybe they want to introduce Julio Jones to the team with a touchdown. So I am going to play some Julio. I think, as you said, 15 to 25 snaps, but I would expect them to play him, as you said, primarily when he is running routes. Like, I don't think he's going to be out there as that much as a blocker. So I do have some interest in Julio. It's not even like a talent thing, but he's a legend, and I feel like they're going to be able to do whatever they want. I'm going to, because it's a show, I wouldn't play him on a main slate. I want to be clear about that. I don't have high confidence, but because he's getting low ownership, it's a showdown slate. I think I'm going to take some shots there. We have him at 7.5% util ownership, 0.3% captain ownership. We actually have him positive leverage in the captain spot, 0.3% ownership, 0.7% chance to be an optimal. That's kind of interesting.
So quickly, we'll hit tight end. We've got 9 minutes until lock. Dallas Goedert was limited in practice with a groin injury, does not have an injury designation. He's expected to be a full go. He has 36 of the 39 targets that have gone to tight ends. 5 of his 6 red zone looks have been in the last 3 games. Jack Stoll and Grant Calcaterra hardly get on the field, and they share those 3 errant targets that did not go to Goddard. But it is National Tight End Day.
It is National Tight End Day.
I need a ruling, Sean V. I need a ruling.
Yeah. It's so I'm a little bit torn. So I sort of feel like this is the kind of slate where a player who is 200 scoring a touchdown might be enough, like to open it up, because there are so many studs on the slate. That might be enough, just like getting 7 fantasy points, or even less than that, like 4 fantasy points from a $200 player could be optimal, just because we have so many studs on the slate. So there's a part of me that's tempted. I don't think I'm going to any of the backup tight ends. I like Dallas Goedert quite a bit. I think he looks really good. 6,200. The price is right there for Goddard. He's had some really nice games recently. They've been getting him a little bit more involved. So definitely interested in Goddard. I guess I said games. He has one great game, 28.7 fantasy points against the Rams. But this is another nice spot against Miami. I think Goddard is live to have a big game here. So I like Goddard quite a bit. I'm playing, I think it looks like I have 1 share of Durham Smythe there. Those are the only tight ends I'm playing right now.
All right. The question I had sort of waited on, I guess we got to talk defense here. Defense, Philly has 20 sacks, 8 takeaways. Dolphins have just 9 turnovers, and they are averaging 1 sack per game. Tua has been sacked 6 times. That's it. Do you have any lineups with Jeff Wilson Jr. in the captain spot?
Let me look. I would assume that I do.
I had 6 lineups. It's not coming up for me. I don't think I need it.
I have, of my 26 lineups, I have 1.
Okay. That was a question that was coming up in chat, so I wanted to make sure that we didn't miss that. So
it's similar to kickers and defenses, where I say it all the time, the kickers and defense, if you're going to play them in the captain spot, leave salary on the table. I think that is the case with Jeff Wilson. I think that it's tough because it's most likely to win using close to the full salary, right? Like Jeff Wilson, the winning lineup with Jeff Wilson in the captain spot, it's more likely to get there because he allows you to play everybody you want in the flex. So I think it's viable, but just know that if you use your full salary cap with Jeff Wilson in the captain spot, you're going to be duped. It's just inevitable. You're going to be playing a lineup that a lot of other people are going to be playing as well. So if you're playing one lineup, you want to do that. If you're playing small field, definitely viable. But just know in the largest field GPPs, that's probably a negative EV long-term lineup. But you don't really care about that in one slate. If you're playing 2 lineups or 3 lineups, you can certainly play the Jeff Wilson, the captain, and everybody you want elsewhere in your lineup.
All righty. Are your lineups uploaded? I'm working on uploading.
I just uploaded lineups for the first time. I'm going to keep looking at, do I want to change anything? But yeah, you reminded me that, I should probably get some lineups into DraftKings.
I got to get these up there because it's important. But while I'm thinking about it, we do have Bet365 as a promo. That sweet Bet365 deal that was out there where, you sign up, you bet $1 and get 365 in bonus bets. Well, that one's gone. But if you sign up, bet $5, you will get $150 back. That is limited to just a handful of states. Recently opened in Kentucky, but also New Jersey, Colorado, Ohio, Virginia, and Iowa. Coming through the link below us here. Reminder, if you or anyone you know has a gambling issue, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. The standard age for sports wagering in most states is 21. However, in Kentucky, they are super enlightened because it is just 18. I don't like the idea of mobile betting for 18-year-olds. I'm okay with 21. You want to go into a place and wager? I'm good with that. Why? Well, because you can't drink in said place. But I think if I was 18 and could gamble and had access to booze.
I mean, they don't have money.
It was called living in a fraternity, but it wasn't online gambling. It was like nickel ante, stuff. It wasn't gonna. You weren't throwing down your tuition check.
18-year-olds don't have money to burn, though, EMac. So I don't think it's a big concern.
But they got credit cards because everybody gives you a credit card.
I suppose.
That becomes a problem. So be responsible. Again, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Which person are you most terrified of not having enough of tonight?
That is a good question. Currently it would be Tua, because apparently I currently have 0 Tua. So I'm going to have to, I have Tua in the No, why do I have 0 Tua right now?
You have 0 Tua?
Yeah, so I'm going to update that because I don't want to have 0 Tua. I didn't realize that until you asked me that question, and now I'm like, oh
Holy
God, I
cow.
don't want that. I do not want 0 Tua. So I'm going to change that now. But and I have 4 minutes to do that. Who am I the most terrified of? Looks like I have a good amount of the running backs. I don't know. I don't think that I'm super terrified of anybody. I guess I currently have. No, I'm close to the field on Tyreek Hill, so I don't have anybody that I'm really terrified of right now. I guess I'll come down. I'll have less of the others once I update. Right now, I don't have much Jalen Waddle, but I'm upping his projection slightly to get to more, and I'm upping Tua. So maybe that'll change my answer here. All right, now I'm still going to be underweight to the field. So I guess it's going to remain Tua. I'm going to be well underweight to the field, it looks like, just because Jalen Hurts. I have so much Jalen Hurts. I have him currently in every single one of my lineups. I'm going to update a little bit more, but I'm going to be probably half the field on Tua. So that would be my answer. How about you?
It is going to be Raheem Mostert.
Good answer. Good answer.
I have half of what the field does. I was going to put up the lineup generator. Unfortunately, I was not logged into StreamYard. So when I open this, it through the guest link from Neil, it's in the browser that I don't have my stochastic stuff in. Sorry about that. But key things you need to know about the lineup generator, $14.95 per week. You get all of the primetime NFL lineups for Showdown. You get matchups Thursday, Sunday, and Monday. You also get main slate Sunday. That is both for FanDuel and DraftKings. For that, it's just $14.95. It's a great deal. It leverages all the tools that we have, the Sims, the Boom Bust, the everything. That's the engine that builds this out. It's easy to build lineups. You can discard the ones you don't want. You keep the ones you like. You can swap players in and out. It just takes 3 clicks to do that. So it's a very helpful tool, especially if you're just looking to get a couple lineups in, have a nice little sweat. Not break the bank, but it's a fun one. We of course have that for NBA as well, and NBA is starting up very soon. So you get home, you got 15 minutes till lock. Oh my God, what am I going to do? What are they talking about on the shows? Where are the projections? Just click a few buttons here, and you got something to look at. So I'm telling you, it's all about saving time. But that's $14.95 per week. That is the lineup generator. 2 minutes to go, Neil. Your lineups are in.
Yes, but I want to update them. I am.
All right. Well, I can keep talking.
All right. I got it open now. So now I can copy paste. For whatever reason, my file was not opening, my Excel file. So I was panicking for a second, but I got it open. Looks like I'm going to be good. Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that because I didn't realize that I had 0 Tua until you asked me who I'm the most afraid to be underweight to. And I'm up to 20%. So I'm still not playing a ton of Tua, but at least I have some now.
All right. Making some stands on Tyreek Hill, a little above on AJ Brown. I'm below on Goddard. I'm a little above on Durham Smythe. I'm about even on defenses and kickers. Now I'm a little below on kickers. Where's my big stand? It's gonna be Jeff Wilson. I'm double the field on Wilson. I think he's going to come in at more than 18.8. I think he'll come in around 30%. I'm at 38%. Plus, he's going to be in everybody's cash game lineup.
Yeah, he's a cash game lock, essentially.
Speaking of lock, we just hit it, Neil.
We did, man.
We just hit it. This is a faster show. You have so many good players to talk about tonight.
This is such a fun game. I'm so excited about this game. 7
All-Stars or 7 Pro Bowlers in tonight's game. Skill position Pro Bowlers, probably accurate.
Dustin Norton says 100% Jeff Wilson. I mean, yeah, it's hard. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the usage is for Jeff Wilson, but at his price tag, if he scores a touchdown, he's probably optimal.
All right, Nolan Kelly, if you're watching, I'm gonna have to get your login again because this computer didn't have it for StreamYard. Somehow it or my 90 days or whatever is up under your password. I don't think Nolan's watching, but I'm going over here to the schedule because I want to see when our first basketball show is.
Oh, that's good. Good question. Good to look at.
This is going to be fun. So Tuesday, 6:30 a.m. Josh Engelman getting it going with the process.
6:30 a.m.
It's a great show, and that it's so much fun. Even if you don't even have to watch it live, if you just watch it or listen to it, he breaks down. He does his projections in front of you for the day. It's so fascinating to see how he tweaks rotations, how he adjusts things, what he's looking at, the different sites he references. Right now, this is all encompassed within all of our projections and everything. So, oh my God, it's a double pace up spot or whatever. It's in the projections. Anything you're doing is double counting, but just hearing how he talks through things. You know that when you're double counting something, all you're really doing is shaping your player pool. You're not thinking of anything nobody else has, but you're getting the mix that you want. So I hate when we say it's double counting. Believe me, it's already in there, but it's now you're playing for that range of outcomes. Where are the error bars and where are they on the matchup? It's very important. But I love hearing him talk about that stuff. So it's pretty good. Josh, very, very knowledgeable guy for NBA, but Adam's coming back. Adam Scherer, he's on a little,
that's right,
a little hiatus, but I believe he may, I can't remember if it's the 23rd or 24th. I think it's 24th. He's coming back, so or 24th or 25th. But Adam will be back. He was just kicking back, making some MMA lineups, playing in the hockey streets, enjoying DFS life as a single DFS gamer. Out there. I believe he was traveling to the West Coast for a little while, but he should be back. He'll be nose to the grindstone. But the NBA strategy show gets going at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. Oh, I'm excited. I love when the sports change over. It's just we haven't looked at this puzzle in so long. We said, and I listened to part of Josh and Greg's podcast today when I was out walking the dog, just because I wanted to hear a little NBA. I know I was like 2 weeks old, but the one thing that they pointed out is like, we just got done watching NBA at the highest level. That is the NBA Finals. Guess what? NBA regular season, not even close. So you got to reset all your expectations. And we've got some good ones here. It's like you keep looking around. You thought you got surprised by Scotty Miller popping up with Atlanta. Oh, just wait till Wednesday when we've got 9 games and all sorts of players. Like, wait, he's in that team? When did that happen? Good times ahead, Neil. Good times ahead.
Good times ahead.
We're going to slide on out of here. Please hit that like button on the way out. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. That was a lot of fun for us. You'll get Neil. You're on tomorrow nights.
I'll be doing content all day tomorrow.
All right. You can find Neil on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I am at EMac DFS, and of course, it is stochastic_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.